Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends. In my last video we did top 5 quality of life changes, and one of those was about the new player experience. Well, many thanks to MTGJedi, who didn't do a video on this and said so in the comments down below. By the way, link in the description below, MTGJedi. Check out his YouTube channel and check out the amazing content that he makes for you. Unfollowed, why aren't you? I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Anyway, let's get on to it. I want to talk about an in-depth deep dive into the new player experience and ways we could change, Plarium could change the game in order to make it easier for the new player experience. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Deep dive into the new player experience. Before we get into the new player experience and what they can do, let's talk about what they already have. Now, none of this was specifically made to make the new player experience quicker or better or accelerated or whatever we want to call it, but the byproduct of what they have done has. The first and foremost is tournaments and events. Unlike when the game first started and these were rare and far and few between, we always have tournaments going and events going on. You see right now there are 3, and while it is difficult as a new player to get everything done, as you can see, I can get a lot of free rewards. Even though I'm not going for, in this particular case, the fragment event, I still have a lot of different things that I can get, specifically those rare skill tomes, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But I haven't summoned anything today, but you can see that even if you're not playing at that end game to push for those particular things, this is a much better system to get more resources for your players. I have never had so many brews on my main account as I've had on this account, just from those early rewards where they give you a lot of brews and a lot of energy. Free 75, free 75, 100k. These are all achievable, attainable things, these bottom 3 or 4 rewards, even as a free-to-play player, even when you're trying to really focus in on what you want to have and what you want to achieve in your account without blowing the budget, so to speak. So that is the first thing. And the other thing I would say is some content has been made easier, more specifically the Faction Wars content, which allows you to pick up some certain things, right? 22 stars, 13 stars, 37. You can see that even in a new player account, there are certain factions that I'm actually able to burn through pretty well and get those glyphs, which are important, and also get some of these starting rewards here, which wasn't available to players 2.5 years ago at all, because Faction Wars wasn't in the game. But even when Faction Wars was added, the first kind of 2 iterations of it before they buffed it, they nerfed it, I guess, down to a reasonable level, this was near impossible for new players. So it is nice that you can actually get some of these rewards. You see I've got 204 stars. So those things are definitely there. Also, we have the Doom Tower, and though I have not been vigilant, you can see I can get up through some of the levels here, and because I can get up through some of those levels, I can get at least those rewards until I get stuck. Typically, it's been the 3rd level boss. It was Nether Spider before. Now it's the Scarab boss. I just don't have the champions to get through those particulars. But so what? I'm still getting 29 rewards for getting that far, which was not available. Clan boss has also been upped on their shards a little bit, which has been useful. Overall, I find I get a lot more shards for pulls, which is really nice, mainly through the tournaments and events. But and the advanced quest also gives me a lot more energy so that I can burn through and build more champions and get more food built up, and of course go through dungeon runs. So I think that is the good news. But there's still a lot more they could do. So in the next one, let's talk about the different areas that I think they could improve to make the new player experience an easier, especially for the low spend, because typically in the 30 days you don't want to spend right away, and your goal as a player should be is to turn those no spend people that are potential spenders into spenders by making this an enjoyable game. First place I want to go is into the campaign. This is an easy one. If we go to normal, and if you remember, obviously I've finished normal, but if you remember in the beginning, there's certain rewards at each level. You get certain rewards. Well, I would like to add another reward to that to allow players to have the option and experience to have champions that are in multiple facets of the game and are good for early game. If you just have bad luck in RNG, these are champions that you could use and build out to make your team a little bit more competitive in the early game. And that would be the other starter champions. No matter which starting champion you pick, you could get the other starting champions on the game. For example, in Palace of Aravia, you would have Elaine as a completion reward. Valdemir Strait, you would have Aethel as your reward, as oddly enough, it's Bad Al, but if you read the story, there's a reason why that is. But the Bannerlords were basically tricked or cursed or something. Sorry, not Bannerlords, Sacred Order. And of course, the Deadlands, you would be able to get Gaelic, and the Dark Elves over here in Durham Forest. And I think having those 4-starter champions allows you a little bit more breadth of building if you're unlucky in your first couple of pulls for shards, ancient shards, those sort of things. Because if you pick, for example, Elaine, then you can have Kale to work on your clan boss. You can have Elaine for campaign and dungeon farming. You can use them both in boss fights, such as Dragon Dungeon, those sort of things. So it would give you a great breadth of ability. You can have Aethel, which will help you get through some of the Fire Knight stuff with a triple hit A1. And Gaelic, he's not bad. He's actually pretty good early game for Arena. So you'd have the option. If you were a spender and you had converted to a spender, it may not be important to you. It certainly wouldn't imbalance the game, but it certainly would give that new player extra ability to build out champions that would be useful in the early game to help them progress. Second place I want to talk about is the portal and the pulling of shards. I believe that in the first 30 days, or at least the first X pulls, 200 pulls, be a fair number, you should not be able to get a duplicate champion. And this is a bit controversial, I know, because you think, well, in some cases you might want those duplicate champions to book, but I think it is more important that you have a better option. With so many champions in the game, it is harder now to pull those top tier, especially epic champions early in the game, because there are so many more champions. If you're sitting here going, oh, I need Madame Stress with a Void Shard, well, when they first added her in Halloween a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, or whenever it was, you had a reasonable chance of getting, actually it was a year and a half ago, sorry, you had a reasonable chance of getting her. It wasn't a crazy chance, but at least you had one. Now they've added, 20, 30, 40 more epics in that space of time, and now it's harder and harder to get those game-changing early game champions, and then even more so for legendary champions. So I would just say, hey, in the first 30 days, anything you pull, or maybe your first level 1 to 50, you're guaranteed to get no duplicate champions from pulls. And I don't think that would be overpowered. I don't think that would be over the top. It's only for the first level 1 to 50, and you'd have a chance. You'd probably have to go 1 to 50 and or number of shard pulls so that people don't just purposely spend a whole lot of money at level 1, pull a whole bunch of shards to get every champion in the game. There would have to be some kind of lock and measure, but I think that would make it a little bit easier to pull those champions you want. Up the progression rewards, I think these are pretty decent rewards, but the problem is rare and skill tomes especially, but also epic skill tomes seem to be harder to get now than they were. Most specifically, rare skill tomes, there's a point where it just stops. I would like to see these turn to 3 up to 50, right? So get 3 or even up to level 50. So you get 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and then the gems I would go 50, 75, 100 is fine. So just to give a little bit extra on these progression rewards to help them with their resources, which are very strapped in the first 30 days, especially silver. But if you don't want to move silver, the bar in silver, because that's what's mostly here, is getting those skill ups is very, very difficult. I'm still struggling on this account to get some of my rare champions, and I've only built a handful of them, but still getting them all leveled up and booked out is very difficult to do. So, and rare books are harder to get now than they ever were, so just having that extra rare book would be a nice advantage. The daily login rewards is probably the area that I feel needs to change the most. I can't go back in time. Yeah, I can. Of course I can. So I believe that Haikatun is a very useful champion, but I believe she should be at 60 days. And here's my thought. Baba Yaga, not very good. He's not very good. He's not very usable. Dark Aethel, not very usable. These first 90 days is your opportunity to really hook in the champion, especially these first 30 days. And I feel like if you were to give Haikatun is a nice one, but if you were to change Yaga and you were to change Aethel to more updated, usable, good, strong champions, for example, maybe a Stag Knight at day 60, Stag Knight, a great champion that would helpful, even at day 90 if you feel it's a little too soon for him. He was part of a battle pass, so there's already a great number of population of people that already had the chance to get him. And the other champion that I would do is Ultimate Gallic. Also from a previous event, the Amazon Prime collab, or whatever you want to call it. Both of those champions were free champions at one point to a large population of people still playing the game. Let's make it available to everyone. And that would actually create two major things. First of all, you get a defense down and attack down champion that is highly sought after and very much needed in accounts at day 90. And at day 60, you would get an HP burn champion who, though may not be very strong at day 60, will eventually allow you to get through Spider, which is one of the biggest stopgaps in every and any account. Having an HP burn champion, he's not the best, but he is a stopgap, something to allow progression until they pull a better champion. And it might, lead them to decide to spend money and pull more champions and get a better HP burn champion. So I think that the daily 30, 60, 90 daily login rewards, changing the champions at day 60 to 90 again to Ultimate Gallic and Stag Knight would be a huge game changer for new players. Also, from the daily login rewards, we talked about rare books again. I think the rare books need to be doubled here. I think rare books are so hard to get, and they're so important for the early game. Plus, if we go through the campaign where you're getting the other starting champions, then that would be an opportunity for you to actually build out those champions, because you'd have the rare books for them, which you otherwise may or may not. So, just making those rare books in this first 30 days, doubling up on them. And the final thing is the gear you give should be minimum 5-star. There's sometimes you get 3 and 4-star, which is absolute trash and an absolute embarrassment. You should have every one of these should be 5-star in the 30 days. It should be all 5-star in the 60 days, and you should be able to get some 6-star in those 90 days, in my opinion. Help new players get better. You're not giving them a ton of gear. You're giving them base sets. Give them base sets that will actually work. And the final thing I want to talk about on the daily login rewards is the XP should be 3 days. Maybe don't spread these out on a gap so it's on alternating weeks, but to get 1 day of XP makes it very difficult in that first 90 days to start building out champions. If you give it a 3 days, it would be a lot easier. So those are my thoughts about the daily login rewards. Well, I can't show it. The other area that I think they need to work on is the 2 free champions you get at the very beginning. Right now, that's Jizzo and Shaman. Both these champions are hot trash. They're hot trash in the early game. They can be usable. Don't get me wrong. You can find use for them. But I always laugh when I say that in my videos. I built them so I can find a use. Well, you can find a use with any champion with the right gear. But if you have to find a use for a champion, that's not a champion you want to build out and want to put resources in. And there are champions that would not imbalance the game, but would make things so much easier for that accelerated new player experience. And so I would replace Shaman and Jizzo with Apothecary and Coffin Smasher, Frozen Banshee, Armiger is pretty easy to get out of the market. One of these other champions that are rare, or maybe an epic that's a little more usable. Part of an accelerated new player experience is to remove that problem from the game, and to do that, I think updating the Jizzo Shaman Nightmare Fiasco with Apothecary, and I'm trying to think of an epic champion that wouldn't be too over the top, but would really give you a good head start. Maybe like a Sinesha, would that be too much? Yeah, that'd probably be too much. But just think about that second one. Maybe in the comments down below, what do you think is the second rare or epic champion that would be good early game, beautiful champion to get, but that is not a late game champion so that you're OPing that new player account? Let me know. So the next area I would like to talk about is the experience grind. Now, this is the easiest way. This is the accelerated part. Currently, you see this, I've got 23 hours left. This is one of the most important things in the game, but there's this one right here, and new players typically don't buy this. I didn't buy it for a couple months until I realized what it was all about. And here's an easy way for Raid to not only make extra money, but to make that first 30 days go well, and that is 1 month free. If you subscribe, you get the first month free. This is a time-honored tactic since the inception of subscription-based fees. And people are, most of you are probably Gen Zers or later, and you're thinking, yeah, they do it all the time at on subscription sites. where you get that 30 days, but it automatically recurs. And you can do that with this. That's how Google Play and the Apple Store work with subscriptions, is they automatically do it. So you give the first month free, and unless they remember to unsubscribe, you get a month anyway. That second month you're gonna get, and then if someone's diligent, then fine. If they're not, that's their fault. But you're gonna get that extra revenue from them not resubscribing if they don't. So that's a good thought. To me, that makes sense. But just for all of you that are youngins, this has been around since the beginning of time. It used to be through the mail, believe it or not. Subscription based. Remember those Columbia House used to do books and movies, used to do VHS movies. Dear God, that's a thing. It's a cartridge that has a tape reel in it that has a movie. Ask your parents. But anyway, that's been around forever. They've made a ton of money. It's a proven technique from a corporate side, from an account side, but from the player side, that first month, they might not mind doing that because you're getting that extra 20% silver, the extra 20% XP, and the extra multi-battle. All three of those things are amazing for new player accounts. It's going to help people accelerate quicker. It's going to make them more get to a point where they're having fun in the game, and hopefully it will start converting some of them to spending players. Now, I don't see a downside to it. Maybe you have one, let me know. But I think that would be a major thing for improving the game for the new players, and accelerating that first 30 to 60 days where you're going to convert new players into players. The final place I want to, well, actually, there's two places I want to go. First of all, I want to go to the Great Hall. We'll talk about Arena in the Great Hall. This is so tedious to do, and they've made these. That's another area they've kind of, with these quote unquote bot accounts or the changes to Arena. I don't know how they want to try to swing it this time, but this is nice, and I'm at the point now that I can start farming gold because of the changes. But as a new player, even with being in your first 2 weeks, the bronze level is way too little. I would double the amount of bronze and silver rewards you get while in those, so that you can get this going a little bit quicker. And for those of you who are like, oh, how's he building this hall? It's not my fault. I pulled champions afterwards and changed my mind on things. So that's why I didn't focus. I'm going accuracy. I'm going crit damage here. Those are and the third one will probably be probably Spirit Affinity accuracy for Fane. It's all clan boss oriented, right? Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. The point being is that making this accelerated in the early game is really helpful. It's really helpful to players. So if you can do anything to improve the number of early game tokens, I guess medals that you get, so that you can start building out your first few levels of the Great Hall, it wouldn't change anything because your gold would stay the same, which is where the grind really is. So if you doubled or even tripled your bronze and silver, it's not going to overpower it, but it's going to allow that new player to feel like they're getting some progress in the game. And if they feel like they're getting progress in their account, then they're going to be more invested in their account and more likely to continue to play. The final place I want to talk about for new players is the market. I believe that from level 1 to 50, or if you want to do it again, cap it, the first 30 days, I think rare books should be available for purchase with silver, in the similar to how ancient shards are, but maybe a little more frequently, like maybe 10 a month, or or there's 10 total in there. Some way to get those rare books. I do focus on rare books because I think being able to build out champions in the early game, and especially if you were to give all of the starter champions to people who are playing the game, there's at least a reasonable argument to be made for building out 3 of the 4 starter champions, Aethel, Elaine, and Kael. And if they had the books, if you did the calculations to ensure they had those books, and remember, they can farm War Maiden and they can farm copies of War Maiden for books there. So you've got 4 level 60 champions right away that are strong, they're usable, they're durable, they're good to the mid game. You'll phase them out in the late game, but by then you've converted a player, you've retained that player, and you've done what is served to do. I think that if you make sure that the people can get enough books to get all of those champions built, rare books, and then the epic books and legendaries, well, that comes with the wallet, or comes with the longevity of playing the game. That does it for my thoughts on the new player experience and how we can create an accelerated new player experience to help retain the new players in the game. Now that we've got a mature game that's over 2.5 years old, time to update those first 30, 60, 90 days to help retention, help players get quicker into the action, in Raid Shadow Legends. What did you think? Is there something I missed? Was there something that you disagree with? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love hearing your opinions on this. Also, don't forget MTGJedi. I basically stole this video from him. I pretty much plagiarized the crap out of him for this video. Thank you, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate you and love you. But that is it for me. Thank you for watching the video. I want you to please be kind, be safe, hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.